But I will say that I liked the spontaneity in the office of bouncing ideas off people. And when it's a planned meeting and everything's done online, it's really difficult to get that kind of esprit de corps and and kind of, and I could just feel, when I walked in the office, the mood, where people were going. And when I could feel that, I knew how to shift the business. And I felt like, if everybody was in an up mood, that was great. If it wasn't, we had to fix things. And so not being able to be around people in person is tough. And I will also note that, I talked about Myers-Briggs, and a big part of Myers-Briggs is saying, are you an extrovert or an introvert? And the extroverts want to go back to the office. And I've talked to a lot of them, and they're just dying to be in there with everybody every day, and they're the first to run in the door. Introverts are probably just about as happy to stay home part of the time or all the time. And so we have to be careful that we don't exclude the introvert opinion and point of view, because extroverts will take over, and they'll take over on Zoom calls too. And so we have to really make sure that we pull out the introverts. I always say still waters run deep and an introvert. And so we have to make sure that they are absolutely heard and included, and that their opinions matter. So that's one of the pitfalls I see in this, is that the extroverts just raced back through that. They'd come into the office if no one else was there. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was people kind of changed. It was almost like a lot of people had to stay at home. They were forced to stay at home, whether they wanted to or not. And some people, of course, called essential workers, were out there working. But a lot of people got used to staying at home and figured out, hey, I don't have to do this. And they would kind of they were forced to find what I would call a workaround. Maybe there's other ways to make income, maybe there's other ways to do things, or maybe I don't need to live the lifestyle that I did. And so it's going to take a while, I think, to retrain people and get them energized about finding their careers again. But this is happening across almost every industry. And I have a lot of counterparts and people who are concerned, and they complain that, wow, these people, and maybe it's partly a generational thing, not all, but some of it is, where they're saying, hey, we don't want to work a 7 days or a 5-day work week. We're happy to work 3 days. And so we'll just get it done this way. Some of it works because maybe we're more efficient than we used to be. But I really hear what you're saying when it comes down to, poor restaurant owners, right now, I don't, know how they do it. And so the other piece of that too is just, the cost of living has gone up so much, and just the wages that people make in some of these industries can't keep up. And so they'll find something else to do. And it's going to take a while, I think, to recalibrate all this. And with the inflation the way it is right now, and people's attitudes, it's just challenging. It really is. I feel for anybody trying to hire folks, but it's on every level. It's not just, your entry level. It's a lot of levels that people are struggling with. And even some of the women, in our program at the University of Texas talk about, motivating the staffs and keeping them moving and going. It takes more than it used to, I think, to keep people engaged. The person who kind of coined this phrase was looking at how things in biology and how things would kind of morph into the next thing. And so nothing was just like a brand new thing. It always had kind of a sequence to get to it. And one of the things that, I think is a pretty good example of this is that the printing press really was add-on to the wine press. And so it's not like someone just immediately said, I'm going to invent something brand new. And here it is. Things kind of have a logical sequence, and one thing builds upon the other. And so when I'm talking about the adjacent possible for our own lives, it's usually something that I say is your superpower, probably, that you were good at as a child. And I was an artist as a child. From the time I was a little girl, my mom gave me crayons and paintbrushes and a little easel, and I started painting and creating little pieces of art as a young child, and then got better at it in high school, and eventually ended up becoming an art major at the University of Texas. And so this was always something that I was passionate about. I loved it, but I had to kind of shift gears out of my own artistic pursuits and pour that into my company. I didn't have time. It takes time to be an artist. It's time consuming labor of love. So I didn't have time. I had the 3 children, and busy at work every day. And so I kind of had to pour my creativity into hiring people that were creative. So some of our art directors and illustrators and copywriters and all those people that we hired were creative types. And so I felt like that was my expression of my own creativity by giving them an opportunity to practice their craft, so to speak. But then a few years ago, I just took a left turn into an art store one day. I hadn't been in it in years. And I walked in and got some canvas and paintbrushes and paint and took it out to our ranch and set up a makeshift easel and just started messing around and painting again. And at first, I didn't like anything I did. It was very realistic. And then I got very abstract and nothing was really coming together for me. But then it just kind of hit one day. And I looked up and I said, wow, I have so much to share from just the beautiful Texas skies. And so I paint almost always Texas skies, be it a sunrise, sunset, abstract. You can kind of see this one behind me. But even big full moons. And whatever I see in the sky is something that inspires me. And again, the colors change every day. It's always a different canvas. And so I've never gotten tired of painting that since 2016. And I had my first show in New York in 2016, and I was scared. I hadn't shown my work anywhere in years. And I walked into that show, we had it all hung, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if no one likes this and no one buys anything? And so fortunately, it did well. And one thing led to another. And I did have a show in Houston a few years ago at the Octavia Gallery. They are now in New Orleans, but I had a successful show in Houston a few years ago as well. But I love it. It's something that I'm always loved, but I have the luxury now to go back and do something that I did as a child that